All right, we are back talking NASCAR. One more race to go before we move on to another round, and that means 4 more drivers will be eliminated after Sunday's Roval in Charlotte, Eric. And it's the last road course race of the season as well. So we'll see how it goes. There's going to be a lot of drama, you would think, at a road course. Last race before we move on and all that other kind of stuff. So it could be interesting.
Should be. I feel like every year we go there, there's something between. Remember the first year, I think it was Truex. Yeah, it was Truex and Jimmy Johnson running into each other in that little inside turn, and then you had on the final lap. I remember, was it Bowman and Bubba? And remember somebody, he threw the water at Bubba laying on the ground. I vaguely remember. That was a few years ago too. Then we had the Elliott and Harvick thing last year. So every year there's been something. So I don't know why this year there wouldn't. I mean, I feel like it's going to come down to the final lap just because, I mean, look, right? I mean, 8th and 9th. So 8th being the last spot, 9th first spot out is tied.
Yeah.
It's 0. I just feel like it's going to be that way just because it is a Roval.
It's an elimination race.
Yeah. You combine it all up. I feel like we might get something. It may not be your main guys just because the main guys I feel like are already in. It might be something of, hey, look, I got to move this guy. And it may, as an example, I'll just use Austin Cindric. He's on the bubble cut line right now. Let's just say he needs one spot. Let's just say you got to get one. You're tied and you need one more spot. And somebody ran Eric Almirola, I'm just looking at my sheet, is in front of you and you need that one spot.
Oh, you got to get him out of the way.
You're going to move him. And Almirola happens to be Briscoe's teammate. And so I do feel like you could have a scenario where maybe it not be playoff driver versus playoff driver. It may be desperate playoff driver moving somebody not into the playoffs just because they need that spot. So that's where I say everything's on the table for this week.
And it could be Denny Hamlin with 5 laps to go knows that even if he crashes his car, he's going to the next round. And who do I see in front of me but Ross Chastain,
Byron.
Yeah. So maybe, and those guys need this more than I do. So, anything could happen. So.
It could. That's why I said this one is open because there are slower corners to where you can run deep and maybe move somebody. That's why I don't think it's going to happen early. I think Kevin Harvick tipped his hand too much last year for this week when he got into Elliott early because Elliott got a chance to get his car fixed and get him back. Yeah. So I think stage points are critical. We'll get into stage points when we recap Talladega in a second because I think Joey Logano, I wrote about this, kind of contradicted himself and they kind of needs called out for it because his quotes for 2 weeks in a row contradicted himself, and I thought it was ironic, which is weird.
Let's talk about Talladega because it was the smoothest Talladega in Talladega history. I mean, it ended half hour before scheduled time because there were no major wrecks. There was no craziness even in the last lap. There was no major crash. It was, and you had a lot of the top cars that were still available to win that just couldn't. And it was amazing. It was really something special that I don't know. I don't know if it's just a coincidence or if it's because it was a playoff race. I don't know. It was kind of interesting.
I liked it. I feel like it was refreshing to where it doesn't become amateur hour where it looks like any of us would be racing these cars.
We don't want that. No.
Because I was nervous when Hemrick brought that caution, and I made the note, and I'm like, well, it is 5:19. I remember exactly. I just made a time up there. It was around that time, though. And I was like, let's see what time checker flag actually falls. We've got the 6 to go, and there's a caution, but let's actually see, because we've seen that script, right? I mean, they wreck. Green flag, turn 2, big one. All right, we'll waste laps, and then we'll go back to green and caution on the backstretch, and then we'll go again, and then they wreck at a turn. It's like we can't get the thing over with. I was nervous it was going to turn into that. I'm like, we've had a clean race, and now it's going to be a bunch of guys that don't know how to drive all of a sudden.
All of a sudden, Hemrick stalls on pit road, and it's like you thought that he ruined it. It's like, oh, no, he had a really good setup coming.
Yep. But what I do feel like is refreshing, and the drivers I heard talking, and they felt like they couldn't get a third lane. which that's what Talladega is, right? That's the difference between Talladega and Daytona. More real estate to work with. You get 3-4 lanes sometimes, and they can never get more than 2. But ironically enough, I feel like it helped the show. Yes, drivers like, oh, it's hard to pass. Well, it kind of should be a little bit there, because what happens is when we get to the end of these races, and this is where the wrecks come from, is a guy like we've talked about, you're in 10th place. You've got no business with a car in front of you just pushing your way to the front like you have a tank. You're 10th for a reason. Don't be a hero and go from 10th to 1st. They couldn't do that. They didn't have that option. I feel like that helped, because the guys up front deserve to be up front. And they finished up front. I like that. I didn't want to see Blaney, who was leading the last lap, go to 12th because they bum rushed him and he gets right. It's like he deserved to be there. He deserved to stay up there.
And he made the comment too, which I thought was when he was trying to second guess himself. It was like, yeah, but I know, but if I did move up and block Elliott, I'm not sure if Elliott was going to leave me hanging, and all of a sudden I'm stuck all by my. So that's why, and maybe it did help to have good plate drivers or good super speedway drivers.
Yes.
At the front, in the lead, at a crucial time, because they're going to make the right decisions like Chase Elliott did.
I think that's a great point, because you look at, like we talked about in the spring race, Kyle Larson's not usually up there. Martin Truex Jr. wasn't usually up there. That was Ross Chastain's first one. So that's why you saw that chaos. This time around, you saw Eric Jones, who was leading the white flag lap in the spring, so he kind of knew how to adjust. Chase Elliott usually finds himself up front. He just usually gets caught up in a crash. But he was there. Blaney's always up there.
McDowell.
Hamlin's always up there. McDowell. So it's like these guys knew what moves you can and can't make, because, again, that's where the playoff factor comes. Like Hamlin said, I could have forced it. I could have tried to go middle. But would somebody have gone with me? Would I have got shuffled back too? I had to take points. I'll take the top 5. Blaney. So it's like, you know what? That worked. That's better than seeing just a crash fest. 58 lead changes. It was the second or the third most in well over a decade there. So I feel like it all played out well. Yeah. I was glad to see a clean race and these guys, because I was a little nervous with this whole safety thing. Dialogue going back, like, oh gosh, are we going to get another playoff driver taken out and missing the Roval? And are the drivers going to run single file? Are they going to do anything? Like, no, they actually raced.
And it wasn't boring. They never once went single file.
No. And the only time they would is maybe a pit stop coming up and they're positioning themselves to get to the low lane, which is fine. I'm okay with that, because it's like, and what I like too, which separated this race from the Xfinity race, the manufacturers pitted with each other in their final stage. And we've seen this happen at super speedways where it's like, oh, the Chevys are in one group over there, the Toyotas in another group over here, and the Ford, like they're 3 separate groups. The Cup guys, it's like, I remember I even made a note of this. I'm like, oh, we'll see if it happens. A group pitted on lap 160, and then another group pitted on lap 161, and they all found each other again. And I was like, well, okay, this is perfect. Now we got a lead group to the end, and let's see if they can get to the end. And we've seen it too. Oh, we'll run single file until 3 to go.
And you know what? I think we probably get those single files too when there's 15 less cars. Mm-hmm. But when there's everybody's in the race, pretty much, you can't go single file. There's just that would be ridiculous. That would look ridiculous.
It was no time. It looked like an old restrictor plate race where it was kind of tough to pass. You still could, but you couldn't do it in 2 laps. You had to get your way up there, and that's what it looked like. I honestly, at this point, let's not touch this package. That was good.
Yeah, right.
Let's leave it alone. Yeah. Now, road courses and short tracks, let's fix that. But this, maybe we just let that one go. Yeah. Leave it, put it in the saran wrap box. Don't touch it. Let's show up to Daytona and let's do the same thing.
Absolutely.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves, and we'll have a good race. So, yeah, I liked it. I enjoyed the whole 188 laps. So it was refreshing not to see 9 overtimes.
And 5 hours, yeah.
Yes, so that was good.
CJ benefited with Chase Elliott's win. He needed that, so he had the win of the week. And you came in second. I came in third, but didn't lose a whole lot of points to you, just 60, and that was mainly because of Blaney and McDowell. So I was happy with McDowell. Not happy with the move with McDowell because I dropped. I think I dropped Briscoe for McDowell.
Yeah, and
then I dropped Keselowski when Bowman. I mean, I dropped Bowman because of the concussion, and I picked up Keselowski. And Bowman, it looks like he may be back, but still at that point, we're still not 100% sure. But you probably think he is going to return. But still, I wasn't going to take any chances. CJ, because of his waiver status, is going to pick up Bowman this week, which makes sense. He's going to drop Gibbs, but it does look like Bowman's going to race this week, right?
I've not heard anything. They just sounded optimistic, but we heard that same thing with Kurt Busch. Oh, he might be back, and then 1 week turned to 2 to 3 to 4 to 6. He's not even back still. So I just wonder. I mean, because Hendrick said on Sunday that he was on that like every other day cycle. Like he'd wake up and feel good, and then the next day he'd feel terrible, and then he'd feel good, and they said over the weekend he seemed to be progressing to where he was feeling more and more normal, but we've not heard since. Did he go backward? I mean, that's the things with concussions. You don't know. It's just your brain's got it.
And it made more sense that he skipped the Talladega race.
Oh, yeah. You don't want to take it, yeah.
The road course, you're not going up at super speeds. Yes, there's a lot of bumping around, but you can – I think that's – and I know even though there's a lot of bumping around, you're not doing it at high speeds. So
yeah, and I think if he's – again, I don't know what the NASCAR protocol is. Like NFL, like I know, which granted – we thought we knew until a Tua thing. There's an independent neurologist that has to supposedly clear you. And I don't know what NASCAR's protocol is with, because I thought they've obviously got their own set of doctors for teams and stuff. But if he's remotely close, I feel like in the old days, he would just lie.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm good.
Yeah.
He needs to win for the playoffs, because I almost feel if he's out this week, I almost feel like he's a Kurt Busch situation. He just missed the rest of the season.
Absolutely. Yeah,
that's
what I would say. Yeah.
There's only 4 weeks left.
What's
the point?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's where I feel like there's a lot riding on this week and getting him right. Luckily, I think what plays to his advantage is it's a home race. They're in Charlotte. He doesn't have to travel. You don't have to deal with the air pressure in the plane or anything like that.
That's true.
So,
good point. Yes.
He doesn't have – I mean, he don't get on track till Saturday, so he technically has all the way till Saturday to get cleared. He doesn't have to practice or qualify. He can just start last. I mean, he can.
True.
He's got all the time in the world.
You can't do that though. If you want to win the race, I mean,
you're gonna have to,
because he has to win the race. He's not. It's either win or go home.
Yep. And you got to think too. It's his qualifying. He only has to turn a couple laps if he wants to.
Qualifying. Yeah.
So you just got to get him right to Saturday. I mean, he could be feeling these effects Friday and wake up Saturday fine, and he's. I would say in since we're in the NFL world, he's questionable. You always get the questionable.
He's day to day.
Limited participant in practice, and then yes. So that's we just don't know any different, and I don't think we will until Saturday. You're going to let this thing ride out.
So again, CJ's going to have Bowman if he races. If not, he's going to stick with Gibbs. And then I decided, like I said last week, when I picked up Keselowski, it was all dependent upon how he raced. Didn't really race well, and so I dumped him for AJ. Now, this is strictly a one-race deal, obviously. But I figured, hey, why not? I mean, I got to drop him this week, and I got to pick somebody up. I might as well pick up AJ for the week. So
I thought about AJ. I'm in that point on my team where I just keep getting like top 15s. I'm like, this is what I build it off of. Why change it at this point? I'm at the point now.
Well, who would you drop him? You would have dropped him for Dylan.
That would have been but I'm like, what is that? This is the next gen. Who knows? What if Allmendinger gets caught up and the Roval becomes Texas and there's all these wrecks and
you don't know.
Still it's like that advice you gave me in the summer. Why would you ride the hot hand? My team's been hot. It's just they just keep top 15s. It's like 5
Yeah, you
7.
need those from your bottom drivers, especially.
It is. Yeah. So I'll just write it out. It's like let's just write it out, even though. And because coincidentally enough, I'm looking at Dylan finished 15th in this race last year. Like, all right, that's all I need.
That's fine. That's all.
Or Allmendinger's got some news coming tomorrow, I heard. And,
really?
Full time. Keep hearing full time. Cup next year. He deserves it. Yeah. He got his Talladega win. He's won 3 straight Roval races on the Xfinity Series.
Yeah, that was an exciting finish. The Xfinity Talladega finish.
Yeah, I mean all 3, even the stages were like photo finishes in the Cup race. And then the Xfinity and the truck race, the Benedetto finally getting a win. I mean, it was all of them are good finishes. I just the only thing that you go back with the Xfinity or the truck is, hey, I'm happy for Matt to get the win. But if you get to the tri-oval and we throw the caution and he tried to go the final loop, they're already in the tri-oval. Just let him finish. I don't get that. that's the one thing I don't get. We're like, oh, well, the yellow is out. We got to go to the last timing loop. It's like, well, you're already wrecking the trial. Why are you freezing the field? What's the difference? They're like a couple hundred yards from the finish line. Can we not just settle it at the line?
Yeah. Who was it? The Xfinity race that there was there was that wreck just before the final lap. I forget who it was. Somebody spun out, I think. All I remember.
Oh, they let him race. Yeah.
And I was saying to myself, and now look, I don't know. I'm not an expert. I don't know what their rules are, but I was almost saying, you know what? You had better either put that flag out now. Don't you dare put that flag out after they cross that last one lap to go. Don't you dare do it, because you had time.
No.
Do it now or don't.
Yeah. Yep.
And they didn't.
Do it. Yep.
And I was holding. I was going, don't you do it. Don't you put the caution out now. And they didn't.
I was nervous too. Like, oh man, here we go. And they like, oh, they swallowed the whistle. Oh, don't stop in turn one. You better keep moving. Yeah. And they did. But yeah, I might get. You don't want gray area. I get, like, if there's a wreck in turn 2, you're gonna throw it and go last. But when you're in the tri-oval and there's the big wreck, but you're already there, don't you just let it ride out to the finish line? Yeah. I mean, I know
it doesn't make any sense. But again, we've talked about it. It's it's the quicker we get them out there, which at that point you're not going to need the people anyway. They're going to go out there and it makes no sense.
Over. I mean, it's right in front of them.
They're going to go. They're not waiting.
They're all right there. No, the race is over in like 2
They're running out there to help. That's it.
So I felt bad for Brett Holmes, the guy. He's an Alabama guy. He lives 15 minutes from the track. He was an ARCA guy, run the truck race. He technically crossed the finish line first, but because of the timing loop, they went back. They gave him third place. I'm like, but he was already in can't you just let him finish? Do you have to throw the yellow when it's? I get it if it's on turn 2 or on the back stretch, turn 3 even. But when you're at the front stretch, do you have to throw a yellow to end the race when you're already there?
It's like silly. Yep.
Yeah. So, anyways, I digress. That was my rant of the week. But
all right, so you are down only 280, but that's okay because as we talked before, especially with a road course race, anything can happen, and the points are still 400 for a winner. So that shows you how quickly Eric could be leading next week if he has a good week and I have a bad week. But then once we get into the round of 8, starting at Vegas next week, the points go up. You win, you get 800 points. So things can really, and by the way, the winner of the championship race gets 1,600 points. So
far from over.
Yeah, it's far from over for everybody. So we'll see how it goes. By the way, we haven't talked a lot about futures lately. Elliott now 2-1, Hamlin 3-1. Larson 5-1. Who do you, if you were just wagering today on a championship pick, and you had let's say you had $500, and you're at Vegas, and you're gonna, hey, I'm only here for another couple hours, and I got to put this $500 on NASCAR championship driver or drivers. What would you do with the 500?
I'd probably split.
Who do you think is going to win as of today?
First, I guess I got to figure out who'd be in the 4 because it matters who would win Phoenix. I'd still side. Now that I know Hamlin's getting by, I was kind of worried about him this round. I'd say he'd get in the chain. I'd say Hamlin. Right now, I'd say I'd split 250 between Hamlin and Logano.
Okay.
I think those would be my. I just feel like Elliott's too obvious. I just feel like I just don't see him winning Phoenix to win the championship. Larson, he's just been too quiet. I like the 5-1 number on him.
Oh, if he wins this week, he's going to be 2-1.
He will be. There's a reason people haven't repeated in this format, let alone.
Yes, that's why I stood away from it all year. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd say right now, I'd go Logano and Hamlin. I just split 250 each.
Yeah.
A sleeper. I looked ahead to the round of 8 because I was looking for stuff. 2 guys stood out to me. I was kind of forecasting. Ross Chastain. I feel now like we questioned this a few months ago, but not only picking up, and you look at the tracks for next round, like oh boy, Ross Chastain.
Third Las Vegas. He was second, by the way, at Phoenix, if he gets that far.
Homestead's a good track for him.
And he was 5th at Martinsville.
There you go. And then the other one that really shocked me when I looked into this, I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. William Byron.
He's now 20-1.
Yeah, 20-1. So throw some money his way right now, because if he gets by, granted, he's 11 points below.
He was 5th at Las Vegas.
Who's the one that got it won the last race at Martinsville?
And that would be William Byron.
Who's the guy that won the last race at Homestead that we went to?
Oh, was that
William Byron?
There you go.
Yeah. So 2 of the 3 tracks, he won the last time he went there. And we've seen Hendrick, well, they've won 2 straight championships by 2 different guys. Is he the third? It's like, wait a minute, you can get him for 20-1 right now. He's got to get there first. He's not in yet. And that's where I wrote the other day about the playoffs this year is about survival. And especially in the NFL this day, I'm sure in the NFL shows you guys talked about this. It's limiting the mistakes. The teams that don't turn the ball over are the teams that are winning. It doesn't matter how many points you're scoring and giving up. Just look at the turnover differential, and usually the one with the least amount of turnovers.
I just said that on my show the other day. I said the way it is, and the reason why Bill Belichick and these great coaches, the reason why in the regular season, the reason why they're so successful is because you coach to make sure that you don't turn the ball over, make stupid mistakes. When you eliminate all the stupid mistakes and the turnovers over a long season, playing mostly marginal teams. Sure, you're going to play a step up 5 games, maybe a season to play really good teams. But for the most part, you're playing marginal teams. If you play that way for the whole season, you're going to win most of your games. You're basically letting the opposition make the mistakes.
That's what they do. And that's where I feel like the playoffs in NASCAR is that way. Is you don't get that holding penalty on 3rd and 10 where you gain 15 yards, but it comes back because you made a hold you shouldn't have made, or you threw a pick or fumble. The playoffs have been that way this year. Take Byron as a prime example. You don't make a dumb mistake by spinning Hamlin under caution. You have 25 more points in your pocket right now. You're 14 to the good. You're on the other side of the cut line. And now you're into the round of 8 on tracks you're good at. That's what's tire pressures. Popping tires when you were leading, mechanical failures. If you don't go too aggressive and you play in the little box that they've given you, you're moving on.
Yep.
I mean, look at Briscoe. He went 14 straight weeks without a top 10. He's now tied for the final playoff spot. He's got 2 this round. Texas, he didn't shoot himself in the foot. Yeah. He was a 30th place car.
Hung around. That's all he did the last couple of weeks is hang around. Yep.
Cindric's the same way. Suarez, same way. You can look up, and those 3 could be in the round of 8 because they're not beating themselves. That's a key point to this season now, is the blueprint's there. Just don't beat yourself. You don't have to win, just don't beat yourself.
By the way, I see that the last time that you put money on William Byron was April 10th. And you put money on Byron once for $700 back on April 10th. You just put 10 grand on him based on the money that you were allocated for this week per driver. So now you're up to 10,700, which is still
20-1,
16,000 below. But again, we take, whether you know this or not, we are taking any of the money that we win or lose moves over to the next year. So we're not just going to leave money on the table in the negative or the positive. So if we're behind, better for Eric to say, hey, I don't want to be 30,000 behind Byron. Let me be 15,000 behind Byron if he wins the championship, because that's a lot easier to make up starting next year.
Exactly. Plus, let's say he makes it through quietly. Let's just say he doesn't win Sunday, but he's probably still out of the 8. He's going to be towards the bottom.
Yeah.
Compared to
you'll still be able to get 10-1 probably on him.
Yeah. So I'm still going to close that gap. So if he gets through, then I'm going to go all in again next week because, as you said, if Larson's through and does a good showing, let's say he doesn't win, he's probably still 3-4-1. If he wins, he's probably 2-1 with Elliott. Hamlin's going to be 2. The odds are they're going to have to be guys that are double-digit odds, and he'd be one of them.
Yeah,
if you look at the list.
I mean, looking at it, these are all Chastain is probably, and maybe Byron if he makes it through, would be the only name drivers. I mean, because if you look at it, Chastain is the only non-name driver at this point, it looks like, that could go to the next round. Meaning, you can't out of the 7 other drivers, you can't put them all at low numbers. So somebody's going to get some, and that's why Chastain's sitting there at 7-1 right now. I don't think that changes much if he makes it to the next round, unless he wins this week, because somebody's got to be 7-1, 8-1, 10-1, and Chastain, because he doesn't have the name recognition, he'll be one of them. So, so will Byron.
Yeah, because they're going to try to bait people. Because what's the point of putting everybody at 2-1?
Well, you can't.
Bettor's going to be like, I'm not going to even touch that thing.
Exactly.
So that's why I call them bait drivers. I think Chastain and Byron going next to that group, they're going to be your bait drivers. Because if you look at who's arguably in, Elliott, Larson, Hamlin, Logano.
All names. People want to put money on them. Yep.
Exactly. So Byron's going to be a guy I feel like is going to ride that 10-1 until if he gets to Phoenix, then he'll be 4-1. Like they'll all be 4 and 5-1 at that point. But
yeah, the only way Logano and Blaney even go down is if they win this week.
Yeah, because they're the same way.
Yeah,
they're kind of in that weird purgatory. It's like you're weird odds right now for a championship. But
hey, Blaney's getting hot again at the right time. He's now second. This is perfectly setting up for him. So
he could realistically, I got this coming next week if you make it through, which he should. He's a top point non-winner right now as far as in playoff standings. He's probably going to have to win next round just because the case does. I hope he does it and makes it through. I really hope that he gets to Phoenix and finishes second. And a non-playoff guy wins, and we have a guy in a season that we had the most winners ever. We had 19 different winners and the parity, and you have a winless driver win the championship. To me, that would just be the most bizarre thing that ever happened. Because even when Kenseth won in 2003, he at least won a race. So, which changed this whole – that's what brought the playoffs, was Kenseth winning one race in 2003. Right? We got to change something here. Well, this would be – the last guy in could be the first guy, the only guy left. So
could happen. You never know.
I'm rooting for that storyline. Sorry, Blaney, but I want.
Well, hey, I don't think he's going to care as long as he wins the championship.
The championship's a championship. So
well, it matters.
I think that's just hilarious.
Winning it all.
Yep.
All right. Okay. Now, the last road course. Interesting because taking a look at the odds difference. The last road course, the biggest odds change. Interesting enough, the top 3 guys are the same. Elliott was 5-1, Reddick was 6-1, and Larson was 9-1. Now it's 5, 6, and 8. So they didn't change at all. What was it? It was Watkins Glen, right?
Watkins Glen.
So basically, they stayed the same with the top 3 with the odds. The major change I see. Well, Allmendinger went from 25 to 12. Logano went from 30 to 15. Let's see. Byron. What's Byron?
I don't have it in front of me. He was 12, 15, something like that. I don't know what he was at Watkins Glen.
No, Byron this week is 12-1. He was 30-1. Yeah, those are the biggest ones. So, yeah, that's Kyle was 15-1. Now he's 30. But we know why that's the case. I mean, the first thing that popped in my mind with Kyle was, hey, you know what? He would actually be pretty good play this week. And I was looking over the stats and everything, and then I realized, what am I talking about? This is Toyota and road courses. You can't take these guys.
This is their worst. And you also look at last year he was 4th, but then you look at his other 3 finishes are more par for the course this season. 30th or worse in three of his other 3 finishes. So, yeah. 30-1. That just shows you how far he's fallen. When at 30-1, we're still like, nope. I still don't want to pick you at 30-1.
That's right, and that's unfortunate, but that's another story. And Kyle has already kind of packed it in, I'm sure. But we'll go over the odds in our picks. There's only been 4 races on the Roval. So the starting positions of all 4 races, 2nd, 9th, 10th, and 19 for the winners of the 4 races. So only one of the top 8, which is a little unusual for a road course. Yeah. Shows you how different it is from the IndyCar series.
Oh, yeah.
Chevy's won 3 out of the 4. That's because Elliott's won twice. Now, we are going to take a look at the performances this season only, basically, because who cares about road courses last year? Completely different. So the road courses in 2022, the 5, we have COA, Sonoma, ROA, Indy, and Watkins Glen. So those are the 5 that we can use. And we'll start. Oh, by the way, we had 4 drivers that we all picked together.
Larson?
Correct.
I know we don't always use the favorite, but Elliott.
Yes.
We all go Elliott.
No,
okay.
wait, actually, no, because I didn't. By the way, it's 3 drivers, not 4.
Okay, so we got Larson, then 2 more, then Busher.
No.
Oh.
You were the only one that took Busher.
Trying to think who else had better. Is it a favorite?
It's a contender.
Blaney?
Yes. One more.
Cindric?
No, I didn't take him.
Logano?
No.
Chastain?
DJ did not take Logano. CJ did not take Chastain.
I'm looking at the list here. Trying to go down to see who am I missing here. Allmendinger.
Yes.
I was like, wait a minute. I don't know why I skipped him up top here. I'm going down the sort of like, oh, the very first driver. Why'd I miss him?
Right.
Okay. Apple to ties, yeah.
So out of those top 3, as usual, I skipped Elliott and Reddick, so I didn't take either one of them, especially with Elliott winning last week. I made money on Elliott last week, so that's fine. I just have a hard time believing he's going to win back-to-back. It's not because he hasn't won on the road courses yet this year anyway, and he's the favorite, and he just won last week. So that's the reason I stayed away.
Yeah, I went with him because I felt like he's getting hot again, and I almost look at him because I feel like he's got almost out of vendetta, like a revenge. Like, I'm going to win a road course race this year, and I'm like, I don't, because if you look at how in Road America, he was on the front row on the restart, second stage. He took off, Reddick caught him, passed him, and led the rest of the way. He finished second. Then you go to Indy. He was second on the second to last restart. He spun in that turn 1 debacle. Watkins Glen on the front row, final restart. Larson runs him wide. So it's like he's always up there. We've seen him go in these bunches, but as you said, I almost wonder with him if the way these stages play out, if he might just take the playoff points. He might just
take the playoff points. That's it.
And then he doesn't, because he doesn't care at that point. He wants the 5 playoff points for a win, but I could also see him like, I'll take the stage win. I'll take that playoff point. I'm going to keep adding to my total at this point.
That's a smart thing to do, yeah.
It is. So that's why I thought, well, he's still 5-1. I'll take him, but I also can see him punting on it and just like, look, let's just get out of here. We got momentum. Let's not worry. Let's not do one of those things where we finish 15th and ruin our morale. Let's just be like, hey, we finished 15th. What's it matter? Let's move forward. So they could be taking it easy a little bit this week.
Reddick is 6-1 because he has 2 wins in the last 3 on the road courses, but I think for me, it's too much to win 3 out of 4 road course races, and you're 6-1, and you're not even a playoff driver.
Yeah, 6-1 steep. I get it. Like you said,
yeah.
I mean, he top 5 at Watkins Glen too.
Second last year here.
Yeah, it just, and I should say he was in the top 5 for him and Elliott had that contact late when Elliott got pushed off, came back on, but he still finished 7th. But yeah, 6-1 for a non-playoff guy at a track that a playoff driver has won every year at. I just don't see it. I just feel it'd be difficult. For 6-1, it was just hard for me to go for Tyler Reddick at 6-1 right now. But that shows you Kyle Busch is taking that car over 30-1. He's 6-1. So if I'm Kyle, I'm looking like I cannot wait to get into that.
Yeah, right. That's true. That's true.
So I just don't know.
What is Reddick driving?
Right now, a third.
Oh, a new car
together. Yeah, that's for the same. I still struggle to see that.
He races next year with them.
Yes. I just struggle to see that actually happen.
It'll be sometime like December 22nd news story headline comes out.
23-11.
Yeah.
Kurt Busch isn't coming back and he's moving over. Yeah, that
makes too much sense. Defending champ is Larson, so it made a lot of sense. I put the most money that I had on Larson and another driver, but one of them was the defending champ Larson. who has just 2 top 5s, but on the road courses this year. But one was at Watkins Glen when he won the race. So yeah, I don't know, maybe he's overdue for another win. He only has 2 wins on the season, and one of them was on a road course. So and the odds are good because
They are.
it's 5-1 or 6-1. It's a different story, but I have to take him at 8-1.
That's shocking. Yeah, that's shocking. The Fitting race winner, the guy that won the last road course race. And if you look at his stats on the Roval, yeah, they don't scream great. He won last year. But you also look, he's led at least 5 laps in all 3 of the starts there. He led 47 in the first year, 5 and 8. It's like, so it's not saying he's been bad. And to me,
if you can get it now. Yeah.
Yeah, out of the 3, he'd be the one that I would 100. And plus, like you said, qualifying, it seems like Elliott and Larson keep sharing the front row on these road courses. They're going to qualify.
Oh, yeah, get him now. Yes.
Get him while you can. So, I thought he's the better value out of the 3 right now.
The 3 at 12-1, Allmendinger, Hamlin, and Byron. And I had 2, CJ had 2. You only went with AJ. CJ went with Hamlin. I went with Byron. So, yeah, AJ, it's interesting. And in the 5 road course races for AJ, he's gotten better each race. So and his last race was 2nd. So if he's going to improve for the 6th and last time, he's going to be in victory lane. Hamlin, again, Toyota, forget it. He's going to be gobbling up stage points if he can. That's all if he can. That's all I don't even know if he can.
It's the key. Yeah, because if you look at him too, same way. I look at Kyle. Last year was a better year for Toyota in the road course package. Prior to that, his 12th, 19th, 15th there, he wasn't even good. This year, they're terrible on the road. Like he should not be 12-1.
No.
And he told everybody, "I'm on. This is not our week." So yeah, for him being where he is on the cut line, I think 21 points.
And by the way, he might be able to get it because there's going to be a lot of playoff guys that are going to come in, or drivers that want to win the race that are going to come in.
Yeah, his clear path is as many stage points as you can, both stages.
Yep.
If it clears out the C's part and you get a stage win, take it.
You know what? I'd say out of all of the playoff drivers, Hamlin and Elliott would be the top 2 that I could see that would stay out and gobble up playoff points.
And the other one I would say, just maybe for one stage, would be Blaney to get himself over that 40-point hump.
Like he did last week.
Yeah. Stage 1, get your points. Stage 2,
try to go for the win.
After, go for the win. Because that, to me, because he's 32, 35 to the good, I think, above the cut line. So
yeah, he's 32. Yeah.
So 8 points. He's right there. He's so close to get, because people probably don't realize you get 1 point for each position. There's 40 cars in the field. Just get yourself over 40, and there's really nothing else that you have to worry about.
Yeah.
So I feel like for him, stage 1, maybe do that, and the rest of the day, position yourself
to win the race
for the final stage. Yep. So that Hamlin, just get yourself points. Elliott, get yourself stage wins. The rest, get points as you can slide them in. But yeah, Hamlin's not. I think a good day for him would be a top 10.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's not going to care. So
no, as long as all he wants to do is move on.
That's it.
That's all he wants to do. So,
and right now he is 4th in the standings. But at this point he is 21 points up on actually he is 21 points because Cindric and Briscoe are tied. Yeah,
they're tied. Yeah. So again, stage points are his best friend. That's all he needs to worry about.
Now Byron, who had got off to such a great start with the 4 straight top 10s, all he did was finish 12th at Talladega, and now he's 10th. In the playoffs. Yep. That's how quickly it went for William Byron after the hard start. But that's because he was way back after not. That's what happens when you have 2 months off, basically. But he's really good here. When he didn't crash, he's led at least 23 laps in all 3 races here. Plus, he's had a couple of decent results this year. Nothing terrible like the Toyotas. But I also wonder a little bit about some of like Byron. And even if you look at Bowman, except for the 1 runner-up, they didn't do anything. It was really Elliott and Larson. That's it.
Yeah, and he's in a predicament being on 11 down. And great, that could change. The appeals Thursday, they can lessen the penalty if they wanted to. I don't think they will. I don't get the notion they will, because NASCAR's rule is like if you do that, it's technically between 25. Good. No, and the rule states 25 to 50 points. He got the lesser end of the deal, so they're better off just walking away and being glad you got 25. However, he's in a weird predicament where it's like you're only 11 points. Stage points will get you there, but depends on what Briscoe and Cindric do. But you get yourself a couple good stage finishes, you're now teetering that line to where you may not win. You just need to position yourself in the end, as I was saying at the start of the show, and maybe moving people out of your way to get a top 10. Top 15 may get you by. So
a lot's going to depend on qualifying.
It will. And I feel like with him, I feel like their route, his is different. I feel like Christopher Bell, Bowman, if he races, they only going for the win. It doesn't even matter. You got a couple of guys at the top we just talked about, maybe stage points in the first stage, and then you're just kind of maintaining.
Let's say Byron, let's say the intent is I want to get stage points early, but he qualifies 12th. And the best he can do is 9th or 10th at the end of the first stage. He's got to go for the win, don't you think? Or does he now have to go to the next stage and see what happens?
I think you take the points when you can get them. I think even if it's 1 or 2, because that could be the difference in the end. That could save you a position or two in the final stage, which that's why I feel like for them, they're too close. It'd almost be easier for him to be too far out to just only focus on the win. But being 11, it's like you kind of have to go for points both stages. Even if you get 2 points one stage and 3 points another stage, that takes you down to 6. But it's all dependent on what Briscoe and Cindric do. Because, like we just said, I feel like he could have a better car than Briscoe. I mean, he's got a Hendrick car. He could be better than Briscoe. That gets you to a tie with Cindric if you can't get there. And then the Cindric versus Penske for that final spot. And you never know if somebody slips up above them. So, yeah, I feel like he needs to win, would make itself easy, but I don't know if he can get it if he's chasing points. And I feel like he has to chase points because I'd be furious on my Monday morning quarterback review if I'm that team. Like, why do we not get those stage? We missed the next round by 3 points and we punted on stage points and we could have got it.
Look, it's a road course, and if you wind up qualifying, I don't know, 15 to 30 for whatever reason, you're in trouble. Because now you're dealing with who knows what's going to go on out there on the track. And somebody's going to inevitably, one of these drivers, you would think, is going to get in trouble. One of them.
It always happens.
It didn't happen last week, but we talked about it at the beginning of the show. That's because we've never seen Talladega like that before. So unless we see something on Sunday we've never seen before, which I doubt, somebody's going to get it. Somebody.
That's where if you're Byron, that's why I say you put the pressure on the rookies. Get your points, even if you're 5 or 6 down. Make them have to be perfect in the final stage. Perfect pit stops, perfect P's and Q's.
Is that the reason you didn't wager on him?
It was. I just don't feel like he's going to win. I feel like he's chasing points. I feel like you get the most points you can get, and even if you're 4 points down, let Briscoe and Cindric be thinking, oh, that's 4 spots on track. He's close. They're rookies. Put pressure on them. Make sure that pit stop has to be flawless. They can't mess up a pit stop. They can't be speeding. They can't let that pressure go on them where you don't have to. You've been here. You've done it. You've been here enough times. This is your home track. You just go out there and put the pressure on the rookies. And I feel like that could do it. That could be enough. You don't need to win. Let's put the pressure on them. And it wouldn't be historic. I mean, I think it's 19 points is the most somebody's overcome in this last race here going to the next round.
Yeah, he's only 11.
He's only 11. Yeah. He can do it. We're talking about one stage, basically.
Okay, now there are 6 drivers at 15 to 1. And out of those drivers, I took 4 of them. CJ took Blaney and Cindric, and you took 5 of them. The only one you didn't go with was Christopher Bell. So you believe Christopher Bell is done.
I do. I just don't.
He's trouble. He's with the wrong make right now.
That's his detriment. That's the only reason. Denny Hamlin's never steered me wrong, and he keeps telling me over and over, we quote unquote suck on road courses.
I wonder what they did to finish 3rd in that first race. Where don't you think they're looking hard at that? Like, how did we finish 3rd?
Well, remember
that was Circuit of America, right?
Yeah, and I think they would have been outside the top 5. But remember the last lap, Bowman and Chastain and Reddick.
So they still would have had top 10 only. Okay.
Top, yeah. He wasn't a top 5. So and this track's a little different. I mean, granted, I will say this: at Indy, he went off strategy. It was a top 5 car off strategy. Strategy didn't work out. Look where he finished. So I point to Indy because it's a Roval like this one is. So I guess you could correlate the two, but you also could correlate that Toyotas largely weren't very good at Indy when it was running without the chaos at the end. So yeah, I don't trust it. I really do not trust.
I hear you.
I feel like he's got to win. 33 points out is going to be way too much to make up.
Yeah.
And I just, with them saying how bad they've been on road courses, I just don't see a walk-off 9th inning home run get you in. I just don't see it out of that group.
The only way is he needs maybe 2 playoff drivers to wreck early that he's chasing. That's it. If Briscoe, Cindric's, well, probably needs to be Briscoe, Cindric. Probably needs both those guys to get into wrecks early, and then maybe he could actually win on points. But
you're asking a lot to. You're basically having to have to leapfrog 3 drivers.
Sure. Yeah. Well, he's got to win.
It's hard to do. Yeah.
Got to win.
And I think it'd be difficult for him to win. So that's why I avoid it, because he's got to win. I just don't see it happening.
And then I did not put money on Suarez and Cindric, basically because even though I think Suarez has his road course win for the year. So, but I see why you did. I mean, he's got 3 top 5s. We know this is a strong suit for him, just like it is for Cindric. He has 4 top 8s with a second place finish. So I completely understand it. For me, I think it's asking much. The stakes are up now, and you got a rookie, and then you got somebody that's already won once that needs a second one, hope maybe to get in. So I stayed away from those guys. Otherwise, if this is just another race, I might have thrown a few bucks on those guys. So I definitely see why you went that way.
Yeah, and I did because they're really good road course racers, but I feel like I got them for 15-1. That's the only reason I went that way, because I feel like they're the same boat as Byron. They're going to chase points. Why not? Especially being where you are in the stadium. It's like Suarez
has to chase points.
You're close enough to chase points, further the gap. Cindric is tied for that final spot. Like, why would you not go ahead and get yourself some points to get off that bubble, which is Briscoe means he's got to chase points. So chasing points could stack against you in the final stage. Then you're hoping you get that absolute caution in the middle of the pit sequence. But if that doesn't happen, I also feel like they've been pretty good on road courses. So like 15-1, might as well. But their shot to win is if they go off chasing points, which I don't think is going to happen.
And then we both went with Blaney and Chastain. Blaney has looked good all 4 races on this road course, but he's got a couple of top 10s, and he could have even had maybe 4 top 10s this year on the road courses, because one was 11th, and we know he had that weird strategy with the tires. What was that? Was that Indy, or was that Sonoma? That was the last race, Watkins Glen. Okay.
Yeah, because the Indy, he was 4th or 5th when Suarez spun him. Remember on that final restart?
Okay.
He was the reason Chastain went the access road and back on.
Got it. Yeah.
Because there was that spin. But he was in the top 5 coming to that. So
he's been consistent. He hasn't had a winning car, but he's hung around in the top 10 pretty much every race.
Yes. Been all the way. So that's like, for those odds,
and he's hot.
He is.
And he wants to win. You know it. You can see it. It's like, I want to win a race. So... okay, and then Chastain. Now again, remember, we don't care about what he did here before. Different car, different driver, all that. So forget that. We only care this year, and he's been solid this year. Same thing. If he avoids trouble, he should be there at the end.
Yep. In Indy, you look at the 27th. That was only because he got DQ'd for the time. He technically crossed the yard of brick second, so he finished second. And the only reason, as the drivers have all went back on and said he went the access road, because if he would have went straight, he would have turned into a wreck.
Yeah.
So I look at it as that he finished second, not 27th. That was just because they put him at the tail end of the lead lap. So if you look at that, 3 top 4s, 4 top 7s, and 5 tries on road courses. For a team, that's 1-2 of the 5 between him and Suarez, road course races. And you get it 15-1, and he's plus 28. where he's like Blaney in a sense, get your stage points early and then go for the win late. So yeah, I like the 15-1 for those odds.
And then Logano has 4 top 10s and a runner-up on this course. And what I like about Logano on the road courses this year is it's not as perfect as AJ, but you can tell he's been getting better pretty much. Every result is almost as good as the last one. Last one was 3rd at Watkins Glen. So, yeah, I figured at 15-1, he definitely is worth some money.
Yeah, I mean, he went 6, 3, 6 minus 3, 3 minus 3.
Yeah, we can play that game too, yes.
It gets you the win. And, yeah, as you said, he was runner-up here in 2020, 7th last year. He's got a top 10 in all 4 tries. Penske's proven between Blaney and Cindric, got a pretty good road course package under them. So, yeah, he's also in a position at plus 18. Again, get yourself stage points early and make it hard to pass you late. So I feel like he seems when he's always around these numbers ends up squeaking out a win somewhere.
It's funny.
So,
he was just leading the point standings, and now he's 5th. Yeah. It's just a crazy season. So.
It is. It goes to show you get the guy that was literally leading going into Talladega, who you don't want to fault. Oh, yeah, that's what I'm going to talk about him, Talladega. He said at Texas that when asked about that moving to like Atlanta, that we have enough super speedways on the schedule. We just look at the drivers that finish the top 10, that they kind of ride around the back all day. It's not racing. How would you want, like, it's almost wrong of them to capitalize on other people's mistakes. Pretty much what he said.
You mean as far as the question of whether they should change Texas to an Atlanta super speedway?
Yeah, because if you look, like you get your Timmy Hills and your Ty Dillons, those guys finishing top 5, top 10 at Daytona. Sure. That's kind of what he's saying. They don't even.
I'm okay. We say the same thing. So, yes.
But what he said last week, we chased the big one. We rode in the back because we figured a big one was going to come. So we didn't want to. Like, didn't you just say you don't like when people do that and you weren't all race doing that? And there wasn't. So Karma, he's probably the reason this happened. Karma came and got him. Because I looked, I'm like, how did he finish 27th? And I got
at the end of that, he's probably going, sure, now I do this strategy and nobody wrecks in front of me.
That's what he said. That's exactly what he said. The one time that we do this strategy, nobody wrecks.
Yeah.
And because it's tough to pass. Yeah. He just couldn't get out of 27th.
You can't. Forget it. It's over.
So I thought that was ironic. He said what he said at Texas and then said it again. And then all of a sudden, I just thought that was hilarious. So, yeah. I digress for this week. Good odds.
Absolutely.
For him.
Now, the only other drivers that any of us took that were above 15-1, CJ took Truex. I'm not sure why. Maybe because he's got his fantasy team, so he's just hoping. He's regretting, by the way, that he didn't make that trade with me because I think it was about just when he was getting a little bit interesting, Truex. I offered, would you like to trade Truex? He goes, no. Remember, I told you that he thought Truex was going to have maybe 2 or 3 wins by the end of the season.
Yep.
And look, I don't blame him to feeling that way, but again, it just shows you how quickly things change this season. You went with Buescher and McDowell. Buescher 25-1, McDowell 30-1, and I went with McDowell and Bowman. So I just figured I'm going to go with Bowman, basically because if he does win, and I dropped him on my fantasy team, and I can't get points that way, I better get something out of it. Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Otherwise, I would have not put money on him. But if he does race, he does have 4 top 10s at the Roval. He's got a runner-up, and he does have a runner-up earlier this year in the only top 10 on the road course, which was the one that started it all at Circuit of America. It wasn't a bona fide runner-up, but it was a top 6, really. So I can understand that. And again, as far as Buescher, he was 3rd here last year, his only top 10, and he was runner-up at Sonoma. He's got 4 straight top 10s on the road courses. And then McDowell, if you take a look at McDowell, he does not have a top 10 on this track yet, but we know the kind of road course racer he can be, including this season, which matters the most. He hasn't finished worse than 13th in all 5 of his road course races this year, and that's a good reason to put some money on him at 30-1.
Yeah, I mean 38, 8-6 in his last 4 road course finishes, and then on the season he's got 5 top 11 finishes in his last 7 races.
Yeah,
it's like this He's really doing good.
That's why he's on my fantasy team.
Yeah, now you put smart play. I mean, he's doing good on tracks that aren't even road courses, and now you're going to put him on a road course that it's like, okay, now what can? Because he almost maximized it at Talladega. We talked about road courses and super speedways.
Yeah, what did you think about his decision at Talladega? Because I understood what he was doing, especially if you looked at what happened in Xfinity and what we were seeing in the stages, at the end of the stages. It seemed like the play was, I'm going to hang out in second, and then at the last minute, at the end of the race, I'm going to slingshot around him, like we've seen happen the entire weekend, and I'm going to have the outside car, and what we've seen all weekend is that outside car's got an advantage, and I'm going to win the race. That's what he was thinking. But if he does move out and instead puts himself in Elliott's position, maybe he wins the race.
I feel like for him, I think it was all the above, and overthinking it. And I also feel like since he's not a playoff driver, I don't think he wanted to take the risk of making it. Because let's be honest, right? He could have faked and he's up front. He could have used the draft and made a dicey move where it forced Blaney to block. But I think he just played that's a 4 driver. I'm content pushing a 4. I'm just going to toe the manufacturer line. I'll push him to a win if I need to. I don't want to come out and
leave him. If he comes out, Blaney's in big trouble.
Because let's be honest, I've seen this script before. He fakes, he comes out, Blaney blocks, he spins Blaney. Blaney comes across Rex Elliott, and McDowell comes across the finish line.
While there's about 15 cars wrecking behind them.
Yes, and about of all those cars, half of them are playoff cars, and they're all mad at you. So I feel like he took let me just play this safe and see if they screw up, and I just have a clear shot. If not, I'll just push them. And I feel like that's what he did. And that was a smart decision. There's no sense you've made enough hay on the season. You can win realistically. You'll get rewarded in another way more than likely. So it was a smart call for what he did.
All right. Top 3 picks.
I'm going to say Larson, because we talked about him earlier. Larson, Allmendinger, I have a good feeling about him.
I hope so.
I'll go on a limb, and I'm going to say Suarez.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I feel like he's been good enough, and I feel like he'll be in the position that top 3. So I'll say Larson, Allmendinger, Suarez.
I'll go Larson, Blaney, and Chastain. Those will be my 3. All right.
We're talking trap house cars in October. For top 3s.
Gotta love it.
Yep.
I know it's not the safest car. I get it, but they'll fix it. And just make sure whatever you fix to make it safe, you don't touch the...
We like the parity.
The parity, I know. It's... that they just can't. Don't screw with it, please.
No, please don't. Yes.
That would be a disaster. Okay, so coming up... next week again is going to be Las Vegas. So the final 3 races before the championship: Vegas, Homestead, and Martinsville. So Homestead for the first time, and as you mentioned, Martinsville, which has been a long time since we've seen Martinsville. That was William Byron's win, and Las Vegas was Alex Bowman's win.
Yep.
So we'll see what happens if Bowman can somehow steal a win here, but that's doubtful. So. Did anybody else have a good race at Las Vegas? Like, who would you say? Larson was second. Chastain had won the second stage. It was third.
That was the one I remember. The Toyotas dominated, and then we had that caution, I think, for Eric Jones. But that's when the Bowman did the pit strategy to win. But Kyle and Truex should have had the win. But I almost look at that race too. It's so long ago. We're really learning this next gen. It's hard to base. I look more at Kansas. And who was good maybe at all 3 races too at Kansas, 1 at Vegas to compile that one. So that's probably your best bet because that was the 3rd race of the season when we were really starting to learn this thing. So I didn't put a whole lot of stock into that one.
All right, Eric. RaceReviewOnline.net. Everything we talked about today is going to be on the website. Our futures, our fantasy, our picks, of course, and then you've got wall-to-wall coverage on the race and everything else going on in NASCAR, right?
Yep, everything will be up. Absolutely.
Awesome. So we'll see you again next week, and then we'll talk Las Vegas. We'll see who gets eliminated and much more. Don't forget, please subscribe to the show. Very important. And if you like what you see, please not only like the show, but also share it. That's also very important. And if you have any questions or comments, let us know, and we'll talk to you next week.